Please, let's go around. Everybody just say your name or something so Josh can do it. So Robert.
Yoshka.
Aaron Joy.
I just heard you say, let's go around and everybody say...
I'm sorry, what are we doing? I was
good. And Patrick, will you say your name?
Patrick. Is that right?
I don't know. Is it?
Josh, were we all on the mic?
Patrick, good.
Okay.
Could you move
everybody
the
quiet?
off of Matt?
Oh yeah, it's hiding out.
Yay, there he is.
Okay, we're
good.
Back in the salad again. Hey, Jacob, it's time. All right.
You're welcome. I wish that I could make one of these windows twice the size of the other ones.
Stay off camera.
Are you using a Mac or a PC, Matt?
It's fine, don't worry about it. Let's go.
I am, but are you using a Mac or a PC?
I'm using a Mac.
Okay.
Started now.
Jacob, you here? You ready?
I am here and ready.
All right. It took me exactly 100 forevers, but here we go.
No, we lost.
What's exciting?
Is it back?
So Robert, I'm now seeing two images of you instead of the table.
It's the short. It's my short-circuiting. Dang it!
Your
USB drive.
It's your bad USB.
Yeah, on my
No, I like it. Twice the Sir Robert, twice the fun.
Okay. All I have to do is just switch it back. Apparently, and I just won't mess with that part. Okay, let's get into it. Here, L we go. Oh, that's Spanish.
That's not Spanish.
Are you sure?
All right.
Do you know
Not
Spanish?
with that attitude.
I know some. Enough to know that that's not Spanish.
No habla español porque yo soy el burro.
Apparently you speak Spanish. Can you confirm that is Spanish?
In English?
Wants to confirm that he doesn't exactly speak Spanish either.
Here it is. There we go. Okay.
I don't like to say donde.
Okay.
Chinese speakers.
Let's do our junk.
Where you mean, kid?
Let's get started.
Let us get started.
Actually, it's where are you being, kid? So you shouldn't say a stop.
All right. Dang. Okay. You do not need my episode boilerplate.
I was going to, but then I realized the manual count was really boring, so I just wrote some other stuff.
It's free.
Boring or hard?
But you get
A little bit of
$100.
both.
You should have gone with Anna Karenina. That's really wrong, and you get $100.
Except
More
changing his
exciting.
identity to Hannah would be just too expensive for that 100, I think.
Yeah. That was more of a project than
When I see someone... Oh, no, we're ready?
Anna Karenina
Yeah.
is really long.
Okay, y'all hush,
Right.
please, for a minute, guys. Just for a minute, so I can make sure I got audio and...
Sorry.
Y'all are doing great. I just needed 1 second to get us started because it's 1,000 years past our deadline.
Jacob, shh. Don't say you're sorry.
Okay.
Matt's supposed to shush me. You're shushing you.
Okay. Let's do... Sorry, that is there now. Okay. Let's do our episode boilerplate, and good, it didn't switch. Transition, pull this guy in.
Let's get down to business.
All right. Shh. Okay. I need I'm going to do about 10 seconds of silence. It's going to help me do noise reduction on the audio. This is The Dying of the Light, Season 3 of the Starfall Collective. The Starfall Collective is a collaborative storytelling group using the Dungeons & Dragons game system as a vehicle for creating rich and compelling stories in a fictional world that we've been developing together for a while. You can find out more about the collective, as well as the stories we're telling, at thestarfallcollective.com. We're back with another episode. Let's find out who's in this episode. I'm Sir Robert Burbridge, a father and entrepreneur, and the host of this season's story. With me tonight are a few friends playing the characters in this drama. Please say your name, something about yourself if you like, and a brief description of the character you're playing. we're running a little bit late tonight, so we'll jump right in after this to some good action. Why don't we start with Jared?
Hello, I'm playing Yoshka, and who has just met his new buddy Talid, Oravan Roth Talid, who's probably better than real people. I'm a bard.
I am Jacob Burbridge, and I will be playing Orvin Rothtalid, as Jared mentioned earlier. And yeah.
Good. Aaron Joy?
I'm playing Nino. She is thrilled to be underground and has never felt more spiritually awake in her life.
Dwight?
Hi, I'm Dwight. I'm playing Belvari, who is a druid, and I sell imitation Matthew Talamini novels at MatthewTalaminimisspelled.com.
And Matt?
Well, we're going to prevent any confusion here in just a minute. My name's Matthew Talamini. I'm a writer and web developer based in Providence, Rhode Island, and you can find my stuff at MatthewTalamini.com. That's Matthew, TALAMINI.com. I play the shirtless wizard, Diamondback.
TALIMANI?
Yes, that's exactly wrong.
Okay.
Friends like these.
And Patrick?
Do I have to register all the misspellings of my name on the internet now?
I told you to do that. I told you that would help you cover all your bases.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just give
with
Danica
every
Patrick
suffix.
your credit card and just start.
And Patrick?
I think
My
that's the
name
most
is Patrick. I'm
misspelling.
playing the character Toll, who's a half-orc that recently lost a wrestling match to a song and dance man from down Kentucky way. And he's not sure how to feel about it.
I told you there, that half-orc. I'm the best wrestler that's ever been.
But he did get his hair braided afterwards, so how did that made him feel better, right?
Did he? I don't think he asked for his hair to be braided.
He didn't ask, but Yoshka pinned him and braided his hair.
Sometimes you just get things for free.
All right.
Try.
And rounding out the mayhem, I am Josh. I'm a software engineer here in Augusta, Georgia, and you can hear my wild yet coherent thoughts about Bigfoot and the supernatural
Who
and the
himself is
paranormal
wild yet coherent.
at the Bigfoot Society podcast with Jeremiah Byron. And tonight I will be playing Inkatink, a kinku who has many voices, but not one.
All right, let's get into it. Previously, the party came to the home of what Yoshka, the Minoan wayfarer. Yoshka has been referring to these people as the Old Bloods. They apparently have been referring to themselves as the Oravan, named after, they told you last time, the original ancestor who came to this cave, found it, and started proliferating their family. They call themselves the Oravan, or just Oravan, and they apparently call the place they live the Oravan, or Oravan. So the party came there and met a number of the different people. The main thing was they poured their sort of entry magical key liquid onto the rock, and after a few minutes were greeted by Talid, who came up and introduced them and showed them how to get in through a series of narrow passageways through the rocks. It wasn't something that was blocked or hard to get through, but you could get lost in it going inward. Going out, it seemed to be much easier because of the angles of the tunnels. But Talid brought them in and introduced them to Oravan. Sorry, not Oravan. Introduced them to Elephine. Elephine is the elder of the Old Bloods, I suppose the oldest blood of them all. And he took the time to introduce them, and he recognized the clothing of Yoshka the Minoan, and introduced himself to them, but also said that he was on his way to make ready for some preparations. In 2 days or so, they were going to have the, what do you call it? They were having a ceremony, a coming of age ceremony, a sort of graduation, you could think of it. That's a family rite of passage into adulthood. They're going to have, what was it? A dozen and a half kids, including Talid, is becoming one of.
And his sister.
That's right, and his sister Della. They are twins or very close in age, and. Oh, you're good. Foley is being done by. Everyone in Orvin enjoyed a nice cold soda. I'm just playing.
Rip it, baby.
And so, so it was getting towards evening when they arrived, and they were shown by Talid to their sort of guest quarters, which is plenty spacious. It's a little different than anything they're used to. It's stone. It's carved in the stone, as is this entire place. That is a series, perhaps, of underground caverns. They have not seen all of it yet, but they've seen some bits and pieces. So tonight we're going to pick up with the. You're spending the evening there in the cavern in your guest quarters. Talid dropped you off. You stayed in your room, which you were not required to do, but you kind of got the impression that since these people don't know you, they are being hospitable, but they also, don't really have a sense of who you are. It's something like nighttime. They seem to approximately respect the nighttime of the upper world.
Did we get any experience across the walk here?
You could have, but I didn't do it yet. Sorry. I'll do that soon. Dwight asked if there was any experience yet for the couple of weeks. Those weeks were largely uneventful. It is not something that you in real life would have gotten a lot of experience from.
You take that back. Nino and Inkatink made an incredible looking mammoth white skin robe cape thing for Toll.
Nice. I will roll a die to see how incredible it was and in what way.
The same die.
I rolled a 19.
Great.
I'm interested in Patrick being able to have some pathway for gaining at least the wrestling skill. I don't know if experience is the right way or why skill, just because Yoshka during that time started teaching him how to wrestle.
Oh, okay.
At fourth level, you get to
Jock
choose
bonding thing.
ability scores or feats, and one of those is a wrestler. So
as he levels, that'll be something he can pick with. And if he picks,
sorry, did I say Talent? I meant Toll.
Same difference.
Yeah.
Okay.
But as he gets experience, if he chooses that skill, that'll mean something like he's interpreting that as valuable experience in his character's past.
Okay.
Does that sound fair? I mean, I'm not going to pick for him, but he has the. When you buy new skills or spells, what you're effectively doing is saying, here's what I got experience in that I valued and learned from.
So, Robert, there is also the option of treating it like downtime. So it's possible for characters to do things like learn a new skill proficiency or language or something like wrestling during downtime. If we were to treat it as downtime, but we don't have to. It's up to you.
I forgot about downtime as a rule. That I'll have to read up on it, but that actually, now that you're saying it, and I remember vaguely, that sounds appropriate because there wasn't a lot of combat or missions or anything like that. Okay.
And it's the kind of thing where downtime is the rules for if you say, and then nothing much happened for 3 weeks, and your characters say, well, I want to spend that time learning chess.
Okay. That's exactly what I was intending for that period, so that sounds great. Thank you. I'll look into that, and we can figure that out next time. Cool. Good. So you tell me, they seem to, as I said, respect something like nighttime, even though they're in this sealed-off world, it seems like. The caves are illuminated by what appear to be magical lights, sort of like some spells you've seen, dancing lights or continual light. Or
surely
like
continual flame.
Continual flame, that's right.
You have seen continual flame a lot, flickering awesomely on my bare shoulders.
That's right. So that exactly as Inviting is showing, as Josh is showing. So we.
I don't see Josh.
He had a guy, but the caves are illuminated, and there are also. Sorry, in the evening time, they seem to dim the light some. There is more or less always something going on. It's not like it's too dark to do stuff. It's not nighttime exactly in the town. And you've been in other towns. Garota, for example, was big enough that there was a little bit of bustle all the time, or at least all the time that you were there. But you don't necessarily know how welcome you are just to roam around at this time. You have been taken by Talad to this place, and he says he'll come and meet you in the morning. But he's here right now. He's there right now. Would any of you? And you're tired. It's nighttime. Would any of you like to do anything besides going to sleep?
Nano has a prayer thing she's going to do before sleep.
Okay. Anybody else?
So you don't want to have a sleepover?
No.
He's got to get ready for the big day.
Big bet.
Oh, that's a good
One
point.
big
Okay.
bet. One big bet. One big bet.
Belvari says, "Don't sleep. There's snakes," and he goes to a very small bed and goes to sleep immediately.
All right. Anybody else? If nobody has anything in particular, we'll just say that you go to sleep. You could stand watch if you wanted. You feel safe. You have a single entrance into your place, into a single door. It's a good wooden door, and it's stone walls and everything. You don't.
Yeah, Demonback's flying snake is hanging out by the door.
Okay.
But nobody needs to keep watch. It's got its normal instructions. If it sees anything weird, come right back, wake him up, turn back into a staff.
Okay, sounds good. Please get a D20. Good. And I'm slightly changing the way I'm doing the dream sequence just because I calculated some probabilities, and I'm doing it in a way that's more appropriate, so it's not 1 in a trillion chance of you getting it. Jacob, I have D20s over here too.
Yeah, there's
But the
there's enough for
sweet,
one for
sweet
each.
payoff.
If you want.
Should we roll it or just keep jiggling it?
Just keep jiggling for the minute. Also,
What were the odds of making it all the way to the end?
say it again.
What were the odds of making it all the way to the end of the dream sequence?
1 in a trillion, you fool!
I'm not telling you that because then you'll know how many things there are.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Well, I didn't know what the roll was, but
Oh, fair enough.
You think that I know enough math to figure out how many things there are from the odds?
Okay, so here's what we're going to do.
It's cool.
You go to sleep, all of you go to sleep, and while you sleep, including you, Talad, while you sleep, you have a dream. Go ahead and you're not going to roll yet. It'll be a second. And the way we're going to do this is it's just going to be a D10 each time. So you're always just 50-50 if you go continue. Okay.
Yeah.
You're sleeping.
A DC 10.
Yes,
On a
I'm sorry.
D20.
Not a D20, yeah. A 10 or better, so it's actually slightly better than even odds. In this dream, you are walking and you find yourself in a cave. And as you walk through the cave, it looks familiar. Talad, it looks very familiar to you. The rest of you, it seems like the cave that you're in, probably. You don't necessarily remember all the details. And you walk around, and there's nobody really around you. It seems empty. But that doesn't seem strange. As you walk forward, you see in the middle of a particularly large cavern some glistening lights that are moving around, maybe dancing lights. From where you are, it's a little bit hard to tell. It could be fireflies rising up off the mossy floor. Roll a die. 10 or better.
14.
19.
6. I'm out. But I already saw this last time. I think I got pretty much the whole thing.
So
Tink
9
sleeps
for Toll.
at exactly the same intensity as Diamondback and also rolls a 6.
Should I go to the DM chat?
yeah, and if you were under here, if you'll just step over somewhere else, put your fingers in your ears or whatever. You walk to the center place, and you walk to where the fireflies are, and you look up, and way up at the top of the cavern in the ceiling, you see a hole. It looks like a tunnel. Not very wide, but you look way up, and at the top of it, almost as though above the cavern is another firmament. And you see up there fireflies slowly moving around. Looking further up, you can see in the dim light, apparently it's twilight, you can see a canopy of trees with a hole in it. And there seems to be something like a firmament there, as though it's its own world with fireflies as well. And you wonder what the nature of what kind of thing would live up above there. Roll a d20.
5. 10 exactly.
All right. You look up, and to your great surprise, even above the canopy, through the hole in the cavern, up through the canopy, you see the great canopy high above with astonishingly large leaves. And there's a hole even there. Your gaze barely makes out a very dark canopy high above. It might just be nighttime, but it's dark and black looking. And it's as though there's a firmament there. And you see lights twinkling, fireflies surely. They don't seem to move, but you can tell they're fireflies by their twinkling. Your gaze returns to the clearing before you. Roll a d20.
18.
Before you, now, as your gaze draws back down to the canopy, then down to the rock, then down to the cavern floor, there's a symbol, a glyph. It's flickering white and blue with licks of yellow and orange, and it seems to be floating in the middle of the cavern here before you. It's an ethereal symbol of you know not what. Roll a d20 with an 18 plus. Tell me if you get over 18. 18 or over. You did?
Natural 20.
12.
Jared, Yoshka, you recognize this symbol in your dream. It's a symbol you've seen before among your people, among the Menoans. You don't know what it is, but you're very confident that this is some kind of religious symbol or spiritual symbol that your father knew about. And he told you stories, and the only story you can remember about it is the symbol is from somewhere far, far away or long, long ago. Sorry. The symbol is from far, far away or maybe long, long ago. But you also recognize it from another place, you realize. Gulb had the same symbol tattooed on his flesh. And it was indeed the symbol in the book that Gulb carried. Okay, Jacob, you're back in? Jacob!
Yeah.
You're back in.
Back in.
Roll a d20 with a 10 difficulty.
5. So.
What'd you get, Jared? 7. Okay, you're both out. I think that's everybody.
So far, I've made it as far as the fireflies each time. Really wonder how this dream turns out.
Don't worry, Yoshka has a big mouth.
Yeah, it does. It's awesome.
She's like physically big.
Macrostomia. 40 teeth.
I think I have more than 40 teeth.
Can you guys hear me?
Hmm?
Y'all can come back in. I don't know if you can hear me or not. Oh, this is all muted. That's why.
I'm 14 on the bottom, so probably more than... No.
They cannot hear me
We
at
usually
all.
have about 30.
Yeah, it might just pulled out. My mouth's too small.
Alright, well, if we're not recording, I'm going to eat.
Let me see if I can get them back in over here.
Are they not listening to you, or are they just being ornery?
Yeah. Fancy fun snacks, things.
Need to get us a sharp.
Hey guys, can y'all hear me?
Why is it that at a certain point, food that looks moldy is actually really good?
Just wait
Less
till
the
you have
people who
some
powered through to
food.
discover blue
It
cheese
is
delicious.
moldy. Not just looks moldy.
Like blue cheese?
Mm-hmm. Or like portobello mushroom. No, that's not mold,
Yeah.
that's fungus.
It's its own thing.
That whole class of foods that I kind of put good moldy and fermented together
Mhm.
as like somehow a good rotten, which is still like
Unlike kimchi,
strange to me.
Which is not a good
it
rotten.
is a bad rotten.
I like kimchi.
I've had some kimchi that it's alright.
I can't
Yeah, like
get them to hear
sauerkraut.
me.
Do you like sauerkraut?
Not really.
Talk to him on the messages.
I did. I sent them a message says you can come in.
It says on the top of the screen, people can hear you, so they have to be able to hear you.
You would think. I think the purple bar is a big fat liar.
Or maybe it's people can hear you, but they don't have to.
All right. I guess they're back in and
They
trying to
have opted
connect.
out.
It says you're muted right now.
Yeah, that computer's muted.
Maybe it's a connection thing.
Yeah, my network is good. OBS is streaming at a high rate.
We're not corporately sponsored, and our one fan is extremely generous.
I think we should get a corporate sponsorship.
Wait, who's our one fan?
LT,
LT.
right? He's got to be LT.
We have another one at work.
Nice.
Ken listens to today. He was like, a spider? He hates spiders. From Celine.
Okay.
I thought someone.
Matt, can you hear me?
He's
Oh.
saying he can hear you, but we can't hear him.
And I don't have any...
Oh, is that the bottom?
I don't know how to open this.
Here, hint.
Wait.
That. Not gonna.
One broken time.
Are you trying to write your name on the cheese?
Did you offer him a knife already?
Wait, what?
Oh no. No, we want to see how this plays
Use
out.
the corkscrew. Use the corkscrew.
There's a really good spoon in there. That might be helpful.
Really?
Whoa. Is that just somebody laughing?
No, that was some 50s sci-fi.
He's using the corkscrew.
I guess the.
I feel like Borsen should.
It's not working.
No, see, it's Gaelic. This is garlic, not Gaelic.
You have to screw deep.
Can you hear us, Matt? Not if you can. Okay, we can't hear you. Sorry.
Well, he is muted, so maybe that's why we can't hear him.
It's possible.
Oh yeah. Are you
Finally.
muted yourself?
On our screen, it says you're muted. There we go.
I did not mute myself. It muted me.
I did. Sorry.
That's
everybody's
bizarre.
muted. Inkatink is
Pull really
muted.
hard. And try.
Patrick,
It doesn't
you're
fall
muted.
out.
There you go. You have a little.
I'm really curious how you saw that playing out.
I don't know if you want. Do you want that?
Sure.
I just
Cheese.
thought.
Thank you.
And feel free to say pass me the whatever.
Deal.
I'll just put that back.
No.
Now it comes as a snack.
You can just keep that.
Don't worry, it's not cheesy.
It is cheesy. That's
Mom,
what it is.
Jared just gave me his pocket knife. He said, "You're a man now."
See, there's barely any cheese
It
on
only
it.
sounded like for crying out loud. Admit you're a man now. I'm sure of it. That's multiple dog.
No, that's Roscoe enjoying the cat. Wanting to enjoy the cat.
Poppy enjoys cats too. Cats do not enjoy Poppy that much.
Roscoe is pretty sure that Kiki loves him desperately as he loves her.
Oh man, that's funny. My mom's cat lets the dog put its head in his mouth. Just like, wow, he kind of like maws on over the whole head.
Wait,
The cat doesn't
disgusting.
mind. It's just like batting with no claws.
Okay, I don't know why this is not connecting right. Patrick, can you hear us? You're muted, but can you hear us?
I can.
Josh?
I had to
I
quit.
can hear Patrick.
I had to quit probably.
Finally.
Yeah.
Yeah, me and Matthew both had to do that too.
All right, I'm going to do it. Well, if everybody can hear, the camera is not connected right now, but give me 1 sec.
Do an all audio version.
Yeah.
Spooky!
Disembodied voices.
Theater of the mind.
I am using.
You get to know people's real voices as soon as nobody can see each other.
Their inner voices.
That's right.
You know, in movies or books or whatever, when someone sees their doppelganger and they're like immediately like freaked out. Oh no, there's that person that looks exactly like me.
I don't think I would feel like that.
Yeah, would you even? I wouldn't even notice. Like I'd be like, oh look, there's that weird looking guy over there.
Why do you think you would notice?
Okay, I think
I
we're
have no
back.
idea what it looks like.
Like you look in the mirror every once
Sometimes.
in a while, right? Wow, you have no idea? You feel like you
Not
have no
no,
idea?
like you know.
Okay,
if
I
you're
think we're
like,
back.
oh, does that person look like you? I'd be like, I guess a little.
Depends on if they had their full mask
Yeah.
on. Okay, can you all hear? Everybody hear fine? Sorry about the weirdness of that.
This is how I brush my teeth
Yes.
in the morning.
Okay, let's do it.
The
Great.
CDC approves.
Okay, so sorry about that. We are back. That's the dream you have. The night goes uneventfully, as you would expect. It's quiet. It's to your ears unusually quiet. You are normally used to hearing sounds of trees swaying or
The last few weeks, maybe we heard. Oh, yeah, trees. Sorry.
yeah, just normal nature sounds, crickets. Also, the past few weeks there were not a lot of animals or anything. However, they were picking back up
Okay.
in the last third or so of your travel. But, normally you would be hearing more things. It's very, very quiet in here. It doesn't seem eerie. It's just a cave experience, and that's not something most of you would have experienced very often. People don't travel much, so you are familiar with your towns. You've had more experience than most, but this is the first time you've been in this kind of cave in our adventure, at least. It's morning time. You are greeted in the morning. You don't wake up at any particular time. You just wake up when your body's... There's no sunrise There's no lightening of the canopy exactly. It's just that you wake rested. And that's a neat change for you. The only thing there was to wake you up was the readiness of yourself to be awake. You hear a knock after some amount of time, and Talad lets you know that it's him.
Hey, it's me. Ready for the tour?
Come in. Oh yes, we'll come
Khaled
out.
sees a funny little snake with wings fly up and dart around his head a few times before slithering through the air back to Diamondback turning into an ornate snake-shaped staff, which Diamondback catches.
Wow, what a beautiful staff.
Thank you. This is a traditional artifact of my people. It's very precious to me.
I can tell.
So, I'm gonna just for letting our listening audience and players know, Talad's taking the role. He has the role of your tour guide, sort of, as well as what do you call the person who
Warden?
to prom chaperone? Thank you. But the difficulty Jacob has with that is that he does not know the story. So I'm going to actually narrate a lot of this, and Jacob, feel free to jump in with bits of color and voice if you like, but you don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
So Talad comes to you and tells you that he's going to show you around a little bit, and that Elephine has, especially for you, Yoshka, on your behalf, Elephine has said, to introduce you to people and show you around because your people come here about every other year, and it's been some years since you yourself were here. You wouldn't have been in the caves. That'd probably be something only a couple of your of the adults when you were a kid would have seen. But what happens is, and I'll let you tell some of this if you like at some point. But Jared, Yoshka, you would remember from when you were, say, 10 years old, 12 years old, last time you were here, almost a decade ago, that what y'all would usually do every other year, you traveling wayfarers, you would come here with news of people you had met, and also you would take from here these barrels full of this stuff, liquid with the moss on it, and you take a handful of them to go back on a circuit. And the circuit was not just, you were not doing the circuit for the old blood. It was a nice relationship that you had. As wayfarers, this is your way of life, is to travel around. And this was one, maybe important, but it was one stop that you would do on your route, and bringing news and bringing interesting components and other things that wayfarers do from town to town. So, recognizing your troop, your wayfarers troop, the Menowans, Yoshka, Elephine has let Talad know that y'all are esteemed guests. Like, he doesn't know you personally, and so Talad is to chaperone you and to show you around and to answer some questions or whatever. You're not exactly like trusted people because he only knows you and only by your
My dad, yeah.
by your dad, basically. But you all seem trustworthy enough. You're not like killing people and stuff all those last night. Yeah.
Belvari lets his dog out, and the dog goes to some maybe loose earth nearby and relieves himself, and then Belvari molds the earth over it
Good.
so that it disappears.
And
Using magic.
The Orban don't seem to think much of that, although there are not a lot of animals in the place. There are some animals that, like a few mules that are used for pulling stone and some things like that. But generally speaking, right, there's not a whole lot of roaming creatures, but they don't seem to mind or anything. And if your dog wants to roam around, probably he'll stay with you.
Yeah.
But they don't seem to be surprised or offended or anything like that.
What does Diamondback say?
Inkatink tiptoes over to Belvari and points at Belvari and himself and points over in the corner and starts hopping up and down on his feet. But I'm just kidding.
Inkatink need to go too.
Inkatink nods.
So, Talad, why don't you tell... So Talad tells you basically, having talked a little with Yoshka, that he understands that you already know about the barrels, of the stuff that they're making, and he said he's happy to show you around. There are it's not a huge place, but there are, some caverns that do different things and have different functions. So he can give you a tour. There's the place where they have wood. They don't actually get their wood from the surface. They get it from down below. They have moss that they're gathering. You can see the moss, but there's also places where they cultivate it. They have a few places where they're growing some things. They have fresh water supply and some things like that. And they're happy to... Talad is happy to show you some of those places. And wants to know if there's something you'd like to see or know about or whatever first.
Yes, there is.
And where would that be?
Diamondback is on mission. Excuse me, Talad, our new friend.
Yes.
Your people are wise in the ways of magic and of the different magics that can be used to create spells. Yes?
Yes, they are. A proud line of sorcerers.
Have you any storehouse or shop or trading depot or market where one might buy or trade the magics that can be used for spells? There's a particular spell and magics that we require.
And Talad kind of thinks for a minute, scratches his head, at least metaphorically, and basically he tells you that he knows what you're talking about, but people don't come here, and so they don't really trade and buy stuff exactly. They do their own stuff in the caves, and it's not really like there's not like a shop. There's, they have resources, and some people have things, and they have some special, the moss has some neat properties, and they have some stuff for making the lights. But by and large, they don't have a whole lot of interchange with that stuff, aside from when the Menowans come.
In that case, I say, there are 3 spells: locate objects, detect magic, and find the path. We need the components necessary to create these 3 spells. In what way can we go about obtaining these while we're here?
And Talad tells you, and I'll just say what you say, but then you say it so we have it in your voice. That sounds good.
Yeah.
And Talad tells you that Elephine is the town's arcanist. He studies magic. He'd be the guy to ask, and he's busy right now, but he'd be happy to ask and get back to you later today or something.
Eliphine's the one you should be asking about this. He's the main arcanists in this place. But I'll lead you to him sometime later.
I would appreciate that at your earliest convenience.
Of course.
What do you guys eat down here?
Mostly mushrooms. Sometimes we...
Hold on. Good answer. You tell him you can tell him you'll show them.
Mostly mushrooms. Actually, let me show you. And follow me this way, and I'll take them to wherever the mushrooms are stored.
Wherever they walk, Nani is dragging kind of at the back of the pack and dragging her fingers along any puddle or rivulet or stream in the walls that she can get her hands on. She's like trying to touch everything wet. And it makes her a little slower, and then she scampers after to catch up on her tiny little legs.
That's nice.
While we're walking, Yoshka takes off his backpack, which is alligator skin, and says, "Look, have you ever seen a creature like this? We call this an alligator. It lives up in the... Well, do you have rivers or ponds down here?"
I've seen a few underground rivers, but a creature such as this must live in vastly larger quantities.
Oh, can we go? 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 Can we go?
I can tell that you're very interested in these rivers, and let me tell you, I'll give you directions to them as soon as we're done with visiting the farms.
Thank you. Yes, awesome.
Of course.
So that was great. That's great. And Talad takes you and he shows you. Talad does love mushrooms. He goes and shows you some of the mushroom farms. There are other things they eat. As a matter of fact, one of the things he shows you is a farm where they've got some small animals that are like... Give me a second here.
Pangolins.
Wingless bats.
No, but close. Batless wings. No. I'm just trying to think of something. What's the very friendly Brazilian animal?
Pangolins.
Capybara.
Kangaroo.
Capybara.
Yeah.
I was trying not to say the martial art.
Ah.
Capoeira.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. So, and they basically have these like smaller than dog or dog, small dog sized, not like tiny, but little animals. They're not rodents, but they could be in that squirrelish, a little larger than squirrels. And they grow them in like chicken coop type of pens. And they eat those sometimes. There's not a whole lot of them, but they have some. There's fishing. They have a couple of pools and ponds that you'll see, and they also have a forest. So, it's a forest that's a strong word for it. Talad takes you to a very large underground cavern. When I say very large, you could probably walk across it in 20-30 minutes, like to go from one side to the other. It's a big cavern, and they have a lot of trees growing in there with magical lights above that are giving light to the trees to grow. This is where they're getting their wood. You can see it's a pretty well matured process. They grow them fairly regularly. It's not a wild forest, but there are also birds and other things in it because it's a decent sized wood. The whole thing, you can easily, from a good vantage point, you can take it in at a glance. It's not giant, but it's got to be 20-30 acres of property with trees growing in it and paths, a couple little huts where they're processing some sawmills. They're not producing huge amounts of the wood. They're doing it in a sustainable way that makes something that'll continue living. But they do plant it, they do cultivate, and the trees grow. It is the wood that you recognize from the barrel that you saw at Miradau and Yoshka that you recognize from your childhood. And they're growing it. So and Talad shows you that and lets you know that they intentionally leave quail-like birds that are in these trees and such to. And they eat those occasionally. They grab them and do that. After that,
Yoshka,
sorry, go ahead.
While they're there, Yoshka says, "Wow, who would have thought? A whole little world beneath our feet. Wait, this reminds me of a dream I had. Do you remember the dream about the fireflies above?"
I did have a dream about fireflies just recently.
Talad's going to look curiously over and said, "I too had a strangely similar dream. Please explain more."
Oh, well, I had this dream before. In above, there was we have trees like this, and the great trees parted, and we saw above them there were great fireflies that did not move nor blink. But I had the same dream, but this time there was Golb's symbol afterwards, and I remembered my father told me about that from something long ago.
If you look at Diamondback, he's listening intently, and there's a small scrap of leathery flesh
Orc hide.
with that symbol tattooed on it that he's sort of rubbing between his fingers.
And Nina was flipping through her skirts where she had knitted a mirror image version of Golb's symbol. Not knitted, needleworked. A mirror
Embroidered.
image. Pardon?
Embroidered.
Yeah.
Something like that.
That's it. Yes. And Talad, we should tell Elephine this. But maybe you are having the dreams too. We saw in our earlier dreams there was a great fire that fell across the whole forest. Up above, it's not stone like this, it's mostly trees. And I wonder, was that long night, was that the fire, or is there a fire yet to come?
And Talad, looking around at the forest here, the small wood before him, says, well, praise to Simduran. He does strange things.
Cinderon?
Simdron, he was the one that created all of this. He taught us the ways of how to procure these woods, how to find the mushrooms, everything.
And Talad tells you, he seems a little surprised. He wants to know, you don't know Simduran?
You don't know Simdron?
No, I have never been down here.
No.
Is he from below?
Well, he's not from below, but he resides in our hearts with us. He is here taking care of us, and he doesn't just stay down here. He takes care of all of the world.
Oh.
And Talad goes on to tell you, Simduran owns all of this. He is the owner of the whole forest and all the animals in it. He tends to the animals and grows them. He's responsible for all the caves. He tends to and takes care of all the people above in the forest and below here in Oravan. Simduran is the one who has all of this in his domain.
You think he owns the underground as well as the above?
Yes, he owns everything.
Growls and her face scowls and she, literally takes a half step back and distances herself from you.
Talad is slightly confused and responds in kind.
By growling and stepping away?
Well, less growling.
Okay.
So, you said he was here.
Inkatink goes,
Wah, wah. Sorry. You said he was here. Can we meet him as well?
Well, it's more in a metaphorical sense I'm talking about. He's with us always, but every once in a while, perhaps.
Let me jump in here. So, and just to give you all a sense of this, I was telling Jacob what the belief systems are. So he's doing a great job, by the way. You're doing a really good job. So y'all have been walking for a little bit as he's talking to you. Now egressed from the wooded area, and he's been telling you Simduran, and he says basically, look, Simduran is the one we owe all of our lives and loyalty to. He's not like a person like you or me, right? He's a different kind of being than us. But we thank him for everything that he gives us every day. We're grateful to him. And then at this point, y'all have reached, y'all are back into sort of the town area, and Talad's walking you somewhere, and he says, Simduran is, well, let's put it this way. My family we live in these caves by Simduran's blessing. When we come of age, what happens with us, our coming of age ceremony, and this is on Talad's mind, he's talking about it, when we have this coming of age ceremony is when we personally tell Simduran, not in person, but we have a ceremony. We collectively we tell him what thank you, and then he gives us the blessing of Simduran, which our whole family shares. It's how we learned magic and are doing all of our things. As he says that, you arrive at the place he promised to bring you yesterday. Talad shows you the place, especially because Diamondback had asked about this. He takes you to the place where they keep their dead. Diamondback, you had asked, how does the dead work? What do you do? Do you raise the dead? And Talad basically had said, I don't know much about that, but we have a place where we prepare the dead for the, funeral stuff. You're now there. In this place, it is a stone room. It's clean. It's not dirt on the floor. There's no moss to speak of. It's well cut, and there are slabs. They have about 3 people currently there being treated, ready for... They don't do burial down here, but they're being treated to be ready for whatever their funeral process is. That happens sometimes, older people or just random accidents or something. In these cases, it doesn't seem particularly violent. They're just some people, some bodies laying there. They're covered. You can't see them well. And there's a man in there who is tending to some stuff. Talad brings you in and says,
Well, this is the place you wanted to see, Diamondback. I don't know why you would want to see this. And he says, trailing off slightly suspiciously.
What's the name of their sort of great founder god?
Simdaron.
Simdaron. Simdaron does not make your dead walk and follow your instructions.
And Talad looks a little confused and knows what you're talking about, kind of. But the man who's in there, who's an older man, he's probably about 40, stops what he's doing, comes over, and kind of looks you up and down, Diamondback, and kind of has a sense from what you're saying, and he says, we're followers of Simdaron. I know what you're saying, but we don't really have a whole lot to do with Gotish. I take it you're a Gotish worshiper, or maybe Braka, but either way, we're Simdaron, and Simdaron cares for the beasts, he cares for the birds, and he cares for the people here. So we don't really mess with Gotish's domain.
Talad's gonna
Those
make
are
like
not...
that, like sort of how people go like when they hear someone say like Satan's name. He's gonna go like, do something to that effect.
I don't know any of the names that you've mentioned. Our people's knowledge comes from time immemorial, but I would be very interested if you have any texts or sacred documents relating to these Gish or these Cheram.
Just jumping in there, talking about texts.
I don't, and he says to you, I don't have any texts or anything. I just can tell you what there is to know about them. Simdaron is, I guess, friends with or something. They're some kind of peers with Gotish and with Braka. Gotish and Braka, they oversee the dead, and Simdaron and his sister Wira, they oversee the beasts.
Tell me, do either Gotish or Braka take the form of a snake or use snake-related iconography?
Oh, gosh. To be honest, we don't see a lot of Gotish's people here. We never see anyone who worships Braka. He's far away, I think. But Gotish's people, almost never, but it has happened. I have seen them with things like, snake pictures and such.
I show him the staff and see if it gets a reaction.
Not really. He's like, that's a pretty nice staff. It is a nice staff, by the way. It's well carved and everything.
Is it as nice as Toll's?
I don't remember tolls.
You know, my grandfather was brought back from the dead several times.
Wow. Are you... How long did it take you to get here? If you are from Gotish's place, that's very strange.
I know not of this Gotish, but it has been a number of weeks that we've traveled to get here.
That makes sense.
Including teleporting.
Oh. Sorry, I'm gonna let my fridge stop humming. It wasn't my fault. So he basically kind of shrugs and thinks that makes that a couple of weeks to get here is like, okay, sounds great. Probably he's never been meaningfully outside of the cave and may not have a sense of what kind of travel that is. But he doesn't seem to think that that's weird that you would have traveled a long time or a few weeks or whatever to get here from a place that worships Gotish, which is what he assumes. He seems to be assuming that you're of a group that worships that god.
Gotesian.
Sure. And I'm definitely interested in meeting such people if they exist, because they might be allies, or he might be talking about my people, for all I know.
Mm-hmm.
Enemies.
So I'll sort of respectfully say, thank you for your time, and thank you for telling me of this Gotesian Brakad. It's very interesting. Your people have a different way from that which my people follow. But I'm sure it's not as good. But probably livable. Although, wouldn't you want to not have to die?
All of that is in Simdaran's hands.
Wouldn't really call it living, Diamondback.
So, I would like to know if Diamondback has had this exchange, and I'm interested to see if any of the rest of you are interested in anything in particular about this place. It's been a few hours. There's more stuff he can show you. One of the things... Well, go ahead.
Toll is gonna lean over to Diamondback and say, "Your grandfather died how many times?"
Oh, he died 3 times. The third time, the last of our great sages, who was able to resurrect people, had passed on, and there was none to resurrect him. So my grandfather's third death took him beyond our ken. For a time. I'll be bringing him back shortly.
Well,
When you say bringing him back, do you mean like Gob?
Oh no, the spell that I used to bring Gold back is poor, cheap magic. I'm still in training. Temporary. There's greater magic that I will learn and master.
Those are dangerous spells that you play with.
We are dangerous people.
Does Toll laugh like that?
Toll does not laugh like that.
So Talat has offered to take anybody else anywhere they would like. You've stepped out of the morgue, as Talat had previously called it. You've stepped out of there and are just, in the main area. Della comes up as y'all are...
Just to gloss something. Basically, Yoshka continues to ask Talad to take him everywhere there is to take, and peppers him with questions. And I think Yoshka's beard has actually grown out during these long few weeks. But he pretty much almost the whole day has a big smile on his face and is peppering Talad with questions. What do you guys eat? Where are you from? Wait, so who do you marry? things like that? How do you
Having
make
a
clothes?
slightly younger sister, about 3 seconds, he is accustomed to these questions, but finds it nevertheless annoying, especially because of their mundaneness. Not to say that they aren't valid, but he's sort of grudgingly, yes, we eat mushrooms and stuff like that, but you know.
But is Talon friendly about it?
He's friendly about it. He knows that they're like ambassadors, basically, and he's like, yes. It's like dealing with a foreign dictator's son.
Sure.
Yeah. So
You want to treat him with some kind of honor, but you're also, yeah. So
At some point, Inkatink pulls out the device that is used to divine the magic item of that's connected to a person, and the replica of it, and then he pulls out a flute that looks just like the flute that's in Yoshka's pocket, and then he pulls out 5 more that look exactly the same, and he says, "Artisan?" in just a strange voice that you don't recognize.
Talid is going to. He's still a tiny bit confused about the bird person, but he's learned to live with it. He says, yes, I am an artisan. My expertise is stoneworking, and he pouts a little pouch on his side. Actually, one of my greatest stoneworks, praise to Simderon, is where Neno was wanting to go, if you'd like me to take you there.
Yes, absolutely.
Alright, so he's going to...
nods his head aggressively.
So as Talon starts taking you, Della, his sister, kind of bounds towards you happily. They're both 18, 20 years old, so they're, not kids, but they're young. They bound towards you, and she says, Talon!
Yeah?
And she just seems to be very happy. The preparations are almost done. In the morning, we're going to be able to go, and they're going to have the ceremony. There's almost nothing left to do. They're just going to get the last bits ready. I'm so excited.
Wow. Well, let me finish turning them up, and then I'll come help with the preparations. See you later. And
Fine.
he's gonna walk away to the wherever he's leading them to.
So Talid shows them all, and she runs away. She skips away. She's happy about it. Talid shows you all to a series of underground caverns that are much smaller. They essentially appear to be these kind of like grottos almost. They're a series of caves, the floor of which slopes downward till you can't see it anymore, and they're full of a pool of water, each one of them in series that seem to be connected. It's almost as though there's a stream that is connecting all of them and pooling in each of these kind of caverns. There are 4 or 5 of these caverns that Talid shows you. There might be a few more. They're not very big. Each one is somewhere between 30 to maybe 80 feet diameter. A couple of them are very deep. There are places, when I say very deep, you can't see how deep. And Talid mentions to you that they don't know exactly where the water is coming from or where the water is going, but they do have things they do, games they play. For example, sometimes they'll fish in these, and sometimes down below there are fish coming from somewhere, he knows not where. But Talid does tell you also it makes sense that there would be fish because only about a 15 to 20 minute jog to the north is the great river that bounds this part of the forest.
Yeah. Right, before you continue, is there like some sort of spout or faucet or clear path where the water's flowing into the basins?
No. And these aren't really basins, they're just the cave floors.
Okay.
It seems to fill from underneath, perhaps. You're not 100% sure. Go ahead.
Well, Talad is excited to show these like intricate stone murals lining around the basins depicting Cinderon and his sister just going around prancing with animals, swimming with fish, all this kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
he says, "This was my personal obligation to Cinderon. Please enjoy it in all it's worth," he says sort of smugly.
Yeah. Good.
I think Inkatink pulls out a lump of clay out of his pocket and looks at it and is just kind of idly fidgeting with it. And you see him make a perfect little replica, just one little piece, like one person, a figurine. But it's a full person that he's just, fidgeted out with his fingers in just a minute or two. And he sets it down right next to it and kind of just starts taking all of it in.
I must say,
I'm
you're
curious.
artisan.
These basins are like, they appear natural, right? They don't look like they were like intelligently made or anything.
Yeah, they don't seem to be that way. However, they have been very well decorated. The farthest ones down that are the egress of the water are for bathing. They're kind of a public bath sort of place. If you imagine, a Roman style. And further up, it's where you can draw water to, like a well almost. But no, they do seem to be something like naturally occurring. They're not like very regular. But the little caverns that they're in have been well decorated over the years by people carving things. And
Belvari goes over and kind of elbows Diamondback, and he says, "Look at this." And then he points at one of the carving, of the stuff, and he makes it appear instead of stone as the actual color. So if it's like a bunch of people, all the people are colored like the people, and man, look at that.
That's cool.
And some of y'all will notice that happens entirely without components, right?
Yeah,
Diamondback definitely notices it and
it's taking you long enough.
turns green with jealousy.
So Neno, did you want to?
Yeah, Neno turns green, but hers is more nausea. She's feeling repugnance at these caverns were very clearly created by an amazing flow of water happening underground. That's not Cinderon's business. That's the god of the underground water's business. And you went and defaced the god of the underground water's creation with your worship art to this other god. And she's like actually like having a hard time looking at your face right now. This is
Does she actually say that, or just
no. She's too polite to do that to them. But like
She's thinking it.
thinking it hardcore, like it's making her bile rise.
Well, Talad notices and says, "Are you feeling ill? Perhaps I could draw you some water to wash whatever's happening down."
I got this, boy.
Well, all right then.
So Talad starts to, not thinking much of that, he doesn't know, but he starts to lead you back out. Do you want to stay there, Neno, or do you want to go with the group that walks with him?
Neno does want to stay. I do want to stay. Would she be lost, or would she be able to find her way back?
You'd be able to get back.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is just one opening that
And
connects
it goes.
straight to the main area.
I'm
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm gonna take a seat. Tangle my feet, take a pause. We've been walking a while. I'll catch up with you later. And she sits at the edge of something and puts her feet in the water and waits quietly until she can't hear your clumping feet.
Getting a little taste of what Belvari feels like all the time.
Which kind of slows down Yoshka's flow of questions. He had been questioning Talad about all the stories that went with the pictures, and then after that,
Hey,
he's kind of
DM.
more quiet.
Yeah, hey.
I think Diamondback is just barely emotionally intelligent enough to notice that Neno is having an unpleasant experience. And he would like to wonder why and think about it.
Mm-hmm. Roll me a Your Diamondbacks say 18, right?
Yeah, about that age, pretty young.
And Neno's close to 80. Diamondback, Neno. Okay, roll me a DC 16 Wisdom check. Insight. Insight.
Nice. It's actually the same. 18.
Okay. Diamondback, you recognize something like both restraint and fervor she seems to be demonstrating as something that you recognize it as a product of you probably wouldn't think of it this way, but you recognize it from your own village as something like religious zeal. You care a lot about something, and you think that your impression is that she feels like she's isolated in her love of a thing, and that's and you know it's important that way.
Okay. I mean, I guess he says to her, "What's wrong?"
Oh. And she takes a moment and kind of murmurs to herself too softly for him to hear, and then says, "You got a minute, son?"
Well, we can't get those components for the crazy machine yet to get me my magical powers. I've got until then.
Well, take a seat. Don't put your feet in unless you mean it.
I don't understand what you mean, but he sits down beside her and does not put his feet anywhere.
Nowhere.
Whoa, that's
Sits
some
cross-legged
deep magic.
by the cross-legged by the edge of the pool. Okay.
Yeah.
And she never said this before. It comes out haltingly and stiltingly. But she says something along the lines of, "These caves were done by the one I worship.
Sorry, hold on 1 second. 5 seconds.
These caves were made by the one I worship. And consequently, they are his. And for any other god to be worshipped here, let the god of the animals be worshipped where the animals are. This is the land, the kingdom, the domain of the god of the underground waters. I can't stand to look at the defilement."
The god of the underground waters. What is the name of this god?
So, Erin, the actress, don't know.
Okay. Would Neno have known a name?
Neno would have known a name. She would have known him by a name.
Okay.
Just say like
Neno-
you're not able to speak it.
Neno whispers the name to Diamondback. Perhaps you, the listeners, if you're good, will find out later.
While she's whispering it, she lays her hand exactly on the surface of the water, not going in, not going out, but like touches it ever so gently and whispers the name.
Now, Mr. DM, now that I've heard the name, can I think about all the religious lore that I've studied?
Yeah, you can do a religion check as a thing, right?
It sure is.
Yeah,
I'm good at it.
Diamondback's probably gonna
Do a
capture your
religion.
god in a weird crystal and like run away laughing.
Do a religion check, and I make it a DC 16 again.
All right. That's
No
going
capturing my god, don't do it!
to be 12 plus 5 is 17.
Okay. Diamondback.
I'll probably give it to you as a necklace.
The religions. So your Diamondback's people are a little better traveled. Nobody's super well traveled here except for the Wayfarers. Yoshika's been around a lot more than anybody else, but you're second because your people were mercenaries and actually
Well, I
Bavari
think we-
traveled.
Yeah, we're mercenaries, but we also have a lot of mixed up leftover lore
Yeah.
from maybe even before the woods.
So one of the things you relate to about Neno's religion is that she's got a religion that has to do with moving water. And you, from the bayou, a place of slow, constant moving water. There are people who worship, or who, I should say, at least venerate things about water and that sort of thing. The name that you hear that Neno tells you is not exactly one you've heard before, but there's a couple that could be, variations of the same kind of thing, same kinds of sounds or stops or something like that. You're not sure, but you recognize basically that it is. So I won't say recognize. You have in your mind a grouping, a sort of loose grouping of people who belong to this moving water sort of devotion. And so now you've kind of put Neno into that group. She seems to be talking in a similar way that you're used to, though I will say it was not a... the only time you would have crossed that, you would have personally cared about that, is the fact that there are a lot of people who get rid of their dead in the water, in the moving waters. And that means they would have come to you as dead.
We want my people want to know things about other people so that we can know how to kill them and also what they're good for.
Yeah.
Do I know anything from my lore about how to kill people like her or what they're good for?
Not so far. Not from what you just heard.
Okay.
But you could probably, over some time, press on it a little more and get to know her. At least you have a place to think about her as far as what her religious views are now.
Nice.
So, do you all want to... Talad has taken the others sort of slowly, not like purposefully slowly away. Do you want to catch up, or do you want to stay here?
I will stand up and offer Neno my hand and say, do you wish to rejoin the others?
I'll come along in a few. And I stay behind and pray and grumble and pray some more.
So, as these others leave, they're going about, and there are people busying themselves. It's you actually don't have a great sense of what time it is, but just because of you're used to doing it by the lightness of the canopy and the sounds of the animals, and it's all pretty alien here as far as that goes. But Talad tells you that it's about lunchtime.
It's about lunchtime.
Good job.
Thank you.
And he offers to take you over and basically to his house and go in and have some lunch for you. He takes you to his house. He lets you know that his mother has died some time ago, but he and Della live there with their father Roth, and they have some food, and they've got a little bit of normal kinds of food of a place that's relatively secure. There's not something like refrigeration, but there's dried meats and some preserved foods. plenty of mushrooms, also some extra mushrooms for Talad, and stuff to give you a decent meal. You have your own rations, by the way. If you wanted to, you could eat those as well. As you're walking towards the place, where he lives is a sort of, it appears to be something like a multi-tier residential environment. When I say multi-tier, I mean carved into the walls of this place are some homes. They're not huge. They're small by even normal town standards because they're carved rather than built. Right? You build something, it's easier to make it bigger. Carving is a lot of rock. You got to move, but. It's a nice enough, comfortable enough place, and they have a little table that he brings you in, that sort of thing. As you're walking out front, one of the things you see is you hear actually, kind of not echoing exactly the moss that grows everywhere mutes a lot of things, like makes it not mutes, but makes it so that this isn't a big hollow echoey sound. It's got a more comfortable feel than that. Yeah, dampened sounds. But you see, not too far away, 60 feet away, Elephine is near the entrance. As y'all are walking towards these places, he's near the entrance, and he makes a loudish, happy sound. It's something to the effect of like a, "Oh hey," kind of a sound. Coming in from the entrance, the first person you've seen come in from the entrance besides you. There is a tall human who's clearly not one of the Orevan. It's somebody that they know, but he comes in. He's older, not as old as Elephine. Elephine's, 80 or something as well. Maybe you're not exactly sure how old he is, but he's probably 60 or so. He's still pretty spry and whatever, but he's got entirely gray hair, mostly gray to entirely gray hair, short cropped beard, as though he doesn't like shave it off or anything, but he does kind of keep it cut short with some kind of tool or something. And you can see him come in. He's a little bit strange and not strange. He's a little bit unusual in a couple of respects. One, he's here and being greeted, but two, he's dressed fully. Like he's not, doesn't seem to be he's not a beleaguered traveler exactly. He's more like, he's sort of self-possessed. And the other thing you notice about him is as he's walking a little awkwardly. One of his hands is damaged, or it's not moving like a normal hand would. It seems to be really stiff or something like that. He's not. His left hand is not. He's not using it for anything, and so he kind of gives Elephine a hug, but only with his right arm, and the other hand's kind of not just hanging there, but he's not doing anything with it.
Like permanently injured, not something that needs.
Yeah. It seems to be something. Probably a long time, just something on him. But it's far away. He's like 60 feet away. You can see he's a notable guy. He's tall, sort of good, somewhat good looking, kind of a generally handsome guy. But the more important thing is Elephine seems to know and be friendly with and happy to see him. The two of them talk there for a few minutes and then wander off in some other direction. You don't hear what they're saying. Talad shows you where his place is. You go get lunch. We are going to take our lunch break right now, 10 minutes. We'll be back in maybe a little less than 10 minutes, just because we got started late and it's whatever. But yeah, there we go. We'll take a break and we'll be back. Thank you for watching and listening, and we're back in a few minutes. Bye. I am not going to reintroduce us because this is really one episode's worth of time. Josh is not back yet.
He was. Oh.
It's all right.
Yeah, I'll
bring
just jump
us
in. He'll pick up what he
He'll be
misses.
fine.
So after lunch, Talad continues showing you around.
Minnow makes it in for the tail end of lunch. She's rejoined.
Okay. Yeah, and you would have seen approximately where they went. It's not a gigantic complex or anything.
And anyone can point me to where the strangers are.
Yeah, that's right.
Just point at you.
So, it's evening. It's afternoon-ish. I mean, if that even means anything here. It's late in the day for how that goes. You've looked at a lot of different things. You've kind of seen the place. One of the things that you've noticed, just in your general goings, is that there's a marked difference between the kids and the adults. The adults are something like, they have confidence. They have the dog.
No trash.
Roscoe. No, sir. He has
Just have to
food.
stomp really hard.
He's just going for the trash.
I'll deliver.
What a trash dog.
Sorry. For those of you listening on the stream, that is just my youngest child. Just kidding. It's a dog. Getting food out of the trash. Okay. Good, Roscoe. Go. Good boy. Okay. They seem somewhat, self-possessed, kind of confident, and they have a good sense of their place. Part of the reason that seems strange to you is you don't usually encounter people who just seem to have been safe.
In my village, everyone has low-grade fear at all times. That's
Yeah.
how you stay alive.
Yeah. And so it's an interesting difference here. The kids are different, and I'm including Talad and Della in this. They're different in that they are energetic and hopeful, but they don't have the same kind of presence or confidence that the adults have. You ask about that at some point. It's towards the evening, and there's different ones around, and you actually get a good opportunity to talk to Elephine around dinner time. He has finished his preparations. He's done a lot of good work. Y'all are eating in, now at this point, something that's sort of the equivalent of like a park almost, not as big as that. Kind of like how Miradao had a town square where they had tables set up. This isn't quite having tables set up, but it's a place where people are gathering and chatting and stuff like that. Y'all are there talking about things, and you notice that Elephine comes up, and he brings with him this older man that he was with, and he's not exactly talking to you guys, but he does say hi briefly, and he's getting things ready. As y'all are there, Talad is answering your questions, especially Yoshka, your questions, because he's happy to tell you everything you have. Maybe at this point you've had a lot of their questions answered, at least for the day. And as y'all are in repose at the town, you're fairly far away, from where the water bits the water bits are. Maybe your mind has drifted a little bit from that. Maybe not. Up to you. But the people seem to be, friendly. Everything seems to be going pretty well. You're expecting that in the next couple of hours, it'll be time to retire. And one of the things you hear Elephine say, just to a couple of people he's with, he's standing with the older guy who's a foreigner like you guys, but he's also talking with off and on with a handful of people. A few young women come by, and they've got some flowers and decorations, dried flowers, stuff like that. A few men come by. They're carrying things that are building whatever they're doing. Some kids, this sort of thing. And he tells them everything looks like it's in great shape for the ceremony. We'll do it first thing tomorrow at a good time. And then, after this is finally out of the way, things can kind of settle back to normal. And everybody's pretty enthusiastic. So that's the setting where you are right now. If you'd like to do anything, ask Talad about anything, possibly you could talk to Elephine for a few minutes.
Yoshka has stopped asking questions, and he's become quiet, and he's not smiling anymore.
Much to Talad's surprise and thankfulness.
Inkatink goes up to Talad and shows him, he unrolls a piece of leather that's got little slots sewn in it, and it's got some tools like files and carving implements and chisels and stuff like that. And he says, "Artisan?"
Talad is going to say, "Yes, artisan," and sort of look and sort of like put his hands underneath the thing, kind of looking at what all the tools are. Can he tell what they are?
Inkatink, can you tell what they are?
Yeah, they appear to be kind of a mishmash of tinker's tools and leather workers' tools and sewing needles and stuff to do all sorts of odd things.
Almost like just random tools that he may have come across over time.
Right.
So, do you want to say anything more about that, Talad?
Not really.
Okay.
He's just kind of engaging with him.
Yeah. Okay.
Inkatink looks, depending on how good of an insight check you make, Inkatink looks kind of frustrated. You can tell if you've been around him for a while that he's frilling at the neck a little bit.
Talad, our friend here, the crow, is... although he's...
You see his head whip over and he stares at you and all of his feathers are
sorry,
stuck
friend.
straight out sideways.
I apologize.
He's expressive.
He is an intelligent creature. He is as smart as you or I, and he seems to be trying to communicate something substantive to you.
Talad's gonna be like, okay, and he's going to say, "Do you want me to take these?"
And he points at himself and he points at the tools and he holds up the 5 copies of the flutes that he's made, and he holds up the little implement and he says, "Make. I want. Make."
Boy, Fluffy wants to help. Do you have anything you need him for? He's good at stuff.
Well, if he's good at stuff, he can certainly be good at anything. I've been working on a mural in the Grand Hall. Perhaps you could help me with that. Come on. And he's gonna, take him to wherever the ceremony would be placed to, carve more intricate designs into blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
Nino meanders over to find a mom with a toddler and strikes up a conversation with her and asks her how all these kids are getting looked after, what the family structure is like, how that works.
Mm-hmm. So, Nino, you get answers. It's not super different than other places. There's normal kinds of marriage and kids and stuff. Everybody here is human because they're all the same family. Some version of extended family. And you do find out that they occasionally have, they do have scouts that go out sometimes. That is sometimes how they get new blood, like marrying. Also, the family is wide enough at this point. There's, some hundreds of people here that there is also some relatively distant marriage between people. And then she just tells you about how her kids are. Typically people here have a kid or two. There's an occasional person who'll have 3 kids or something like that. But it's not, they're aware of the space constraints and that sort of thing. they do also have a pattern for growth, which is they dig. They can make more space, but it's not a goal. They're not trying to.
Who cares for your orphans? She asks.
And the lady you're talking to, orphans? We don't really have orphans.
No kids without parents.
Where would the parents go?
Oh, what a safe place this is.
Okay.
And Nana was shocked that, momentarily at least silences her. That there would be no kids whose parents have died. Mind-boggling.
So, that plays out. Talid takes Inkatink over. There's a door-sized hole in one of the walls. It's clearly like a special place, right? Like it's decorated and such, but it's carved. It's not. There's not an actual door, but it's carved into the stone, and it's not rough hewn. It's clearly useful for them for that purpose. And Talid explains to Inkatink, not knowing how much Inkatink's taking in, but he basically says, "This is where the ceremonies are. This is where we do certain things. We have our when we're gonna, praise Simderon. This is where we do it. This kind of thing. It's not like a normally public place exactly, but it's also not forbidden or anything. But Inkatink, he leads you through, and the hallway is maybe I call it a hallway. It's only about 6 feet long. This doorway, but it's a nice long doorway, maybe 4 feet wide. Goes up about 6 feet and then arches another couple of feet. So it's a big, roomy kind of corridor hall. On the inside of it, on the other side of it, is a closed chamber. It's not enormous, but it's sizable. Mostly squared off, so it's not round like most of the other chambers here. This one has been clearly made, at least finished, purposefully. It's not like a naturally occurring chamber. On one end of the corridor, the room that you're in is about 45 feet wide and about 60 feet long, right? So there's room for people in there. There's not meaningful ventilation. You see that there's a little bit of, there's some holes and stuff, but up at the top. It's very well decorated all around. There's a raised kind of dais at the far side, and there's a barrel there which has the same fluid stuff in it. It's not centered exactly. It's not venerated, the barrel. It's on a stand and is up there. It looks like it's been made ready for whatever's going to happen. The room is covered with the moss in lots of areas, not everywhere, but it's decorated. And they've got a lot of decoration that they put up for it. Various kinds of carved wood, some stuff that is, you can tell it's not normally there for the ceremony that they're going to do. Inkatink, there's plenty of opportunity in here for you there are places, especially on the wood. The stone walls are really pretty thoroughly carved, and they've been there for a long time. But the wood, there's room for decoration on it. Like if you wanted to carve something there or do something in there for a few hours, nobody would object. It wouldn't, there are some rough and some fine carvings in the wood that people have done just to make a nice decoration for this. So you can have the sense, just to give you an idea, you guys, players, it has the sense of how you would see decoration on a maypole for, a kind of happy day celebration. It's not they haven't been preparing for this for 30 years type of thing. This is more of a, every year or so they have one of these for whichever kids are old enough. And you pick that up as they've talked. This is a coming of age for the kids. It's always, this happens every so often.
Yeah, I think Inkatink goes over to one of the kind of like if there's any kind of arch or any sort of just a large thing that is unembellished.
Sure.
He pulls out some of his tools and looks at Talad, and he starts carving into it. So
Yeah, good. Talad, you stay with him. That would be appropriate because he's a stranger, and also he's to you a bit strange. And so you're kind of chaperoning him, and the others are still in that main place with everybody. So you go there, back in the main place. Neno, you're talking with people, doing whatever interesting things you're interested in. You don't hear anything different from any other people about orphans. It seems to be not everybody's exactly confused. The younger mom you talked to just didn't have a sense of what you were saying. A couple of them understand what you're saying, but they also say it's just not super common. You do notice that Talad mentioned that his mom had died, but he's not an orphan. He has a dad, and he's 20, and so is Della, or 18 or whatever age they are. So anybody want to do anything else? Time passes, you're talking. I'll narrate a couple of things that you hear or see, but then we'll go to bed, unless you want to do something different.
Diamondback will have asked somebody again about where he can find magical components.
So the person you would ask, you'll remember that Talad told you the person you would ask is the main arcanist, Elephine.
Yeah.
And that seems to be, as you all talk, and he's very friendly with you. Diamondback.
I think he's like the mayor in Diamondback's mind.
Yeah, and arcanist you can tell is like a kind of venerated position. The lore you've picked up is that Oravan was himself an arcanist, which is to say he just studied magic and really wanted to know about it. Came into this cave. It was much more primitive, and it was just a cave. And over some time, some generations, they've made it into a nice place. Elephine is the main arcanist right now. He basically tells you, Diamondback, first of all, ask him what you want to ask him.
Sir, thank you very much for your hospitality. We're enjoying very much being in a place where we're not continually threatened with death. There are certain spell components that we are very interested in acquiring. We're willing to trade. We have money. We have other spell components and many different kinds of useful things we would be willing to barter. But the components which go into creating the spells locate objects, detect magic, and find the path. We're very interested in acquiring these. We have use for them that is very important.
Elephine sees your earnestness and roll me an insight check. We're going to make it a DC 14.
17 plus 4, 21.
You get the distinct impression that you've had this before of the masters at your village appreciating the enthusiasm of the youth. You understand that, and you also get that he's older and he's not in a hurry the same way somebody with your more prudent sensibilities might be. But he laughs and he says, well, now let's see here. You want... Sorry, Matt, I'm just going to make sure you can hear me because your picture went away.
Yeah, I can hear you. I just was resetting my camera. Sorry.
Yep, no problem. Just want to make sure. And he says, well, I'll tell you what. Find the path. Tell me again, what were they?
And I give him, as well as I can, an actual list of components, like the foot of the such and such. But
Yeah.
I don't actually have that, and I would have to use detect magic spells. But I tell him as many of those as I can. But the 3 spells are locate objects, detect magic, and find the path. But these are just the ones that you told us.
Yeah, no,
we need to make the machine work.
Yeah, I understand. I'm putting it on the audio.
Oh, okay.
Just for that.
Oh, in that case, I'll say the 3 spells. I don't know if you use the same names for the spells as we do in my village, but we call them locate objects, detect magic, and find the path. I have plenty for detect magic, but locate objects and find the path, I need more components.
And Elephine kind of puts his hand on his brow, and your impression, still from the same insight roll, your impression is that he's kind of switching tracks. He's an older guy, but he's kind of like thinking on a different track than he had been, and he says, well, let's see here. You know, I'm sure I've got what you need somewhere. Back at my house, at least a few. I'll tell you what. If you're still looking in the morning after the ceremony, let me get that out of the way, and then we'll go on over and see what you're interested in. Does that sound fair?
I will be at your door bright and early in the morning.
Well, it'll have to be after the ceremony, young man. And he pats your, he like kind of pats your shoulder and gestures towards your component pouch where you had indicated, money or whatever. And he says, I don't need your coins or your other. You're a guest, and it'll be my gift to you if there's anything I can do. If there's anything you still want from me. And then the man he's with, you hear him laugh. He's listening. He's just standing there near you. He's not like right with you in the conversation, but he's a step or two back. And you hear him laugh, and he says, "Young man, come here a moment."
Just one thing about the last interaction.
Yeah.
When he patted Diamondback's shoulder, flames that give light but not heat and don't burn would have been flickering between his fingers, and the illusion that Diamondback sort of tries to cast of power and danger would have been briefly sort of eclipsed by this friendly gesture. It would have looked a little bit less dire. So he turns and goes to the hardy man calling to him.
There are similar flames to your shoulders around.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess like lighting the room.
Yes. So just
I probably look like somebody who's like wearing light bulbs.
So this man calls you over. It's the first time you've heard him speak. He's got a like kind of gruff voice. He's not like gruff and angry or anything. He's just kind of gravelly or something. He's older, and he says, "Young man, come here for a moment." And as you come over to him, he's got the clothing that he's wearing includes you'd probably call it like a cloak, but not like a really nice. Don't think Elizabethan England, right? Think he's got something wrapped around him, right? Like he's got a cloth around him, and it covers him, and he's probably uses it when he travels or whatever. He came from somewhere that wasn't here, and he says, "Young man, come here for a moment," and he reaches into a pouch, and seems to be particularly jolly, and he's just chortling to himself about it, and he pulls out he fiddles into a little pouch for a moment, and he pulls out a couple of components, and you get the impression he wants you to hold out your hand.
I do so.
The components he gives you are not wrapped or packaged or anything. They're just little bits of animal. And he drops two of them in your hand and says, those are a couple of Pathfinders for you.
He's Santa Claus.
And do I notice that these are what I'm looking for?
He just told you they're Pathfinders.
I say, "Sir, I'm sorry, I'm unfamiliar. What's a Pathfinder?"
What did you call it? Find the path. That was what you called it, right?
Yes, or the strange device creates the impression of a path that is to be followed to find one's I don't know what to call it, but something that enables magic without components.
He gets a more serious look on his face and says, "What are you saying, boy?"
Belvari
Never
does
mind.
a cartwheel.
We want it for our own reasons.
Belvari does a cartwheel, and he lights up behind the guy. He points, and he lights up behind the guy a piece of stone, like bright red, like that.
Oh! We found Belvari's sweet spot.
The guy notices Belvari. Just obviously, the stone's behind Belvari. He doesn't. I mean, sorry, it's behind him. He doesn't see that, but he notices the cartwheel and seems, let's say, a little bit confused and maybe disconcerted about what's happening with this. At first, he seemed more amused at Diamondback's earnestness, but now is maybe a little bit wary because both of you are acting weirdly. And Diamondback, he took what you said a little strangely, you think. You're not sure exactly what to make of it. Roll me anybody who wants to. Roll me let's just do let's do an insight check. That's a wisdom insight check.
4 + 4 is 8
5.
insight for Diamondback.
And there's no exact DC on this. I'm just going to tell you based on a scale what your
11.
11.
I think Diamondback doesn't really figure out what's going on.
19.
I got an 18.
19 for Toll, 19 for Neno.
You guys are all standing around looking at me. Have this conversation.
Jared.
18
I'm
for
just
Toll,
helping out,
for
get
what
ready
it's worth, if it matters.
around.
Okay.
I got a 5, which is fitting because I'm not there.
Okay.
What kind of a check was it? One more time. I'm sorry. An insight check.
No, you're not there, Inkatink. You're in a different place.
Oh, okay.
So Diamondback and Belvari. Diamondback, you don't notice anything about it at all. Belvari, you notice that he didn't respond the way you expected.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like, oh, that wasn't as jolly as he first, whatever.
Seemed.
Neno and Toll, y'all both got 19.
Toll got 18. I don't know if it
18.
matters.
No, that's good. Yeah, that's in the same ballpark, fuzzy area. You are something. You may not have heard exactly what Diamondback said, but the guy got concerned, or either your impression is that he got a lot more serious, and he was something like either concerned or perhaps bothered or perhaps suspicious or something in that realm of what you're saying. You can't quite put your finger on what, but what you do notice is that the guy you see him kind of hesitate and whatever. He he has a couple more things in his hand. He just returns the other components back to his pouch. You notice any of you who are there, it won't be hard to notice, especially Neno and Toll, because y'all are looking. You actually see his left hand, and what you notice is that it appears to be a prosthetic hand. It's not. It seems to be completely stiff, from maybe just above the wrist. So, not like all the way to the elbow, just a little bit above the wrist down. Seems to be a hand that is completely immobile, gloved. You would guess maybe it's carved out of wood or something, and he keeps it not underneath, but behind the kind of cloak that he's wearing. He's not showing it off, but he's also not hiding it. He's just sort of doing his stuff, but that's what you notice about him. He also takes a few steps away, and he seems to be kind of done with the exchange with Diamondback. Doesn't seem super amused anymore. You wouldn't say he's offended. You would just say he was put off a little by something.
Cartwheel.
Somebody
Probably.
maybe the cartwheel. Maybe he's against cartwheels.
Never seen a cart before. So.
It's almost time for people to go, and a man comes in. He also looks similar to this guy in dress. You don't know if he came in or not with him, but he is like him in some ways, and he's unlike the Oravan. And he comes up to him and he says, "Good news! The animals, the beasts that are coming, will be here in a day, maybe in the morning, sometime tomorrow. I don't know." But Simderon be praised. It's looking good. Sorry, and he's not exactly saying this to you at all. He's talking to this guy, but the guy happens to be like now 4 feet away from you, and y'all were just focused on him. But he says, "Simderon be praised. The beasts, the long night didn't do, it didn't hurt too badly. They're fine, and it looks like everything's on track, and probably 2 months, maybe." And the guy says, "Well, praise Simderon. May it bring pleasure to him, and may he bless us." It is Inkatink, you and Talad return from the place where you are. You've probably been in there for an hour doing your stuff, unless you want to do less than an hour.
No, Inkatink has taken chisels and files and has carved a poem into the any kind of large, wide banner or a gate or anything, something prominent but previously unadorned. It says, "For the end of the world was long ago, and all we dwell today, as children of some second birth, like a strange people left on earth after a judgment day. For the end of the world was long ago, when the ends of the world waxed free, when satyrs sunk in a waste of slaves, and the dwarves drowned in the sea. When elven stars fell out of the sky, and whoso hearkened right could only hear the plunging of the nations in the night."
And men break out of the northern lands, enormous lands alone, where a spell is placed upon life and lust, and the rain is changed to a silver dust, and the sea to a great green stone. I know that whole... Don't get me started. I'll keep going for...
The stuff I said and what Matt said.
So, what...
That was amazing!
That's good. What did you write it in?
Probably wrote it in common.
There's no common.
In that case, it might be any kind of odd. Trying to think. Maybe.
Sorry, there's common spoken language, but writing's forbidden.
Sure, yeah. I don't know. Maybe even in Dwarven, and I don't know if anybody even knows it, but
something you've seen before.
Yeah, he's seen it before, and it was ancient and beautiful and sad, and the person who read what it means to him, so he probably couldn't even tell you which of these words mean the sound, but he knows what it means. So,
okay, so that sounds good. And we're gonna wrap up in just a minute for the night, but as y'all are, thank you by the way. Inkatink, you come back in with Talad. Neno, you return. Yoshka, people are winding down the evening. Elephine goes and pulls over a barrel. It's not a full barrel. It's they have barrels, but he pulls one over and he kind of climbs up. It's 2 feet tall, and he kind of climbs up on it and stands a little above, and he says, "Everyone, attention! I'd like to make an announcement. As you all know, tomorrow is a is an important day for us. These young, well, I suppose not children. It points to a few of them, Talad, whoever else is there. Not children. These youth, tomorrow, are receiving our family's blessing of Simderon. It's time again. It's been a year, maybe more, and it's time for this. I'm really looking forward to it. Not only, though, is it a conspicuous day for that reason, but, and he looks at you, Yoshka, and he says, unfortunately, the Menuhin can't be here, but Simderon be praised. One of them has come. And he kind of, in front of everybody, just sort of gestures towards you, calling attention to you, not in a rude way. He's just saying. And he says, the Menuhin. Yeah. I got lost in my own pronunciation of it. The Menuhin have been so helpful in the mission we've been trying to accomplish these 20 years. And he's looking at you earnestly, Yoshka, although he's clearly speaking to your father, this broader group, and he says, I don't know that we could have accomplished so much of what we have accomplished and what we will accomplish without your people's... Oh, I don't have a good word. Sorry. I should have scripted this. Without your people's just tireless efforts and support in what we're doing. I want to let all of you know, and he gestures more broadly towards all of the Orvan. I want to let all of you know we've received word that this part, the barrels that we have, and he gestures to the one he's standing on, though it itself does not have any, like I said, doesn't have the stuff in it. He's just got an upside down barrel that he's standing on. He said, we've sent these out, and we all over all of Simderon's domain, looking for whoever was inclined towards... He himself is struggling for words to say to kind of capture. You can tell he's emotional in some way about this. And he says, there are people out there who fight. Sorry, I'm paused for the refrigerator. Sorry. There are people out there who fight, who resist the Iron Bell. We ourselves, we have not had to struggle with them. Simderon be praised. There's never been cause for violence between us and them. We've been in this enclosed place, and we've been so effective and fruitful at our labors that we really haven't had any kind of need for anything like that ourselves. But we know there are people out there who fight, who struggle against the Iron Bell, and we've been able to provide them, especially through the efforts of these tireless Menuhin, with these barrels, this moss, this that we work for to put together, that we've researched, that we've understood. We are at the culmination, and this is a special time for the youth. You're going to be coming of age into Simderon's blessing at a brand new season for all of Simderon's lands. So, the only thing I want to say more than that, we have an honored guest here, the only one who's, of course, I don't even need to say, done more than the Menuhin, and he points to the white-haired man. He says, our honored guests have arrived. And they have brought us word that, all of the towns that need them have our barrel markers. And we are delighted to know that Simderon has called the creatures of the forest together here, that they're coming and to provide everything we need to move forward. A few months' time, and it'll all finally be ready, be done. At the ceremony tomorrow, it'll be delightful. We'll be free. Not then, of course, there's more work, but it'll be the beginning of our freedom. So, have a great night. I'm looking forward to seeing all of you. Tomorrow's going to be a great day of celebration. And our honored guests, in front of everybody, I just want to say, and now he's gesturing to all of you, not Talad, obviously Talad's not honored guest the same way. I just want to say, normally the ceremony is private for us, but we'd be honored to have you come and participate as observers in what we're doing. It's, nothing special. You don't have to do anything yourselves, but if you honor us to join us, that would be delightful. And we'll see you in the morning. I'm tired. I'm going to retire for the night. But please feel free to enjoy the evening. And he gets down off of his barrel. One of the sort of 45-ish-year-old woman helps him step down from the barrel and takes him away. You get the impression she might be his daughter or something who takes him to his house, his place. And the rest of y'all are in the mingling. People seem to be happy. Everything's going pretty well. After a few minutes, the lights, not a few minutes, after 5-10 minutes, the lights are dimmed, by which I mean some of the magical lights are kind of put out. Like every other one or something, every third one is turned off. What do you call it in church?
Snuffed.
The candle is
Snuffed.
Yeah, they are. The lights are kind of snuffed out. And Talad and Della are happy. They come and they show you back to where you need to go, to your quarters, which you knew where they were anyway, but they kind of chaperone you. And you go to sleep, unless anybody has anything in particular to do before that.
Nano's prayers tonight are like 3 times as long as normal, and normally she does them under her breath, but she's like, they can't make out what she's saying, but they can make out that there's a grumbly tone the whole time.
And when she does this,
She's agitated.
she kneels, like she's on the ground as
hands
low
are
as she
doing
can.
Things flatly. There are tears. There's probably snot, but you can't tell because there's lots of skirts.
Yeah, right. All right.
Belvari says, don't sleep with snakes, and he makes it so that Diamondback's sleeping platform looks like it has actual snakes on it. But 2-dimensional. They're not 3-dimensional.
And just to let our players and our audience know, you may remember from a previous episode that Belvari has a little medallion. Anytime he's doing this, that medallion has to be in his palm, one of his 2 palms.
Oh, okay.
He's got to hold that medallion. When he does that, the magic, the mist. If it's really heavy, you might see it, but you get a sense that it kind of is sucked into that medallion, and then he's able to use that to do his magic.
So that's like half sweetness and half taunt.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
A little bit.
Snakes for you because you like them and because I have magic to do them.
That's right. Yoshka, anything? Yeah, Diamondback, Toll. All right.
Nope.
Good. Well, thanks everybody. I have my episode boilerplate. That's where we'll end this episode. Thanks for listening. You can get more details about the world and the story we're telling at the StarfallCollective.com.
Josh, did you just tip your hat, like for real? Or was this accidental? It was good timing.